Three of Angelina Jolie's kids legally removed their father's name, and what happened next will leave you speechless. The world knows Angelina Jolie as one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Oscar winner, humanitarian, director, and mother of six. But in 2025, her family looks completely different than what anyone expected. Her kids are grown up now, making their own decisions, and some of those decisions have shocked everyone. This is not the fairy tale story the tabloids sold you back when Brad Pitt and Angelina were Hollywood's golden couple. This is the real story of what happened after the divorce, after the court battles, after everything fell apart. And trust me, what these kids have been through and where they are now will completely change how you see this family. Let's go back to when everything started. Angelina and Brad met in 2005 on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The chemistry was instant. The media went crazy. They became Brangelina, the most famous couple on the planet. Together they built a family that looked like something out of a movie. 3 adopted kids, Maddox, Pax, and Zahara. 3 biological kids, Shiloh and the twins Knox and Vivienne. They traveled the world, did charity work, made films together, and seemed untouchable. But behind the cameras, things were not as perfect as they looked. There were tensions, arguments, struggles that nobody outside the family knew about. In 2016, everything exploded. Angelina filed for divorce. Reports came out about a fight on a private plane that allegedly got physical. The details were ugly, accusations flew, investigations happened. Brad was cleared of any criminal wrongdoing, but the damage was done. The family was shattered, and since that day, Brad Pitt has barely been seen with any of his 6 children. Not at events, not in photos, not anywhere. For 8 years, the divorce dragged on through the courts. Custody battles, property disputes, legal fights over a winery they owned together in France. It was brutal, messy, and public, and the kids were stuck right in the middle of it all. Fast forward to December 2024, and the divorce was finally finalized. After 8 years of fighting, it was over. Angelina's lawyer said she had been focused on finding peace and healing for her family. But by that point, the damage had already been done. The kids had grown up. They had made their choices about who they wanted to be and which parent they wanted to stand by. And 3 of them made a choice that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. They dropped their father's last name. Let's start with Shiloh. She's 19 now, the first biological child of Brad and Angelina. When she was younger, the media was obsessed with her. Photographers followed her everywhere. People analyzed every outfit, every haircut, every public appearance. But Shiloh never wanted that attention. Her mother has said multiple times that Shiloh hates the spotlight more than any of her siblings. She just wants to be left alone. What Shiloh loves is dance. She's been training for years at a top dance studio in Los Angeles, working with professional choreographers, putting in serious hours. Dance is her escape, her passion, the one thing that makes sense in a life that's been anything but normal. On her 18th birthday in May 2024, Shiloh did something that nobody saw coming. She filed legal paperwork to change her name. She wanted to drop Pitt from her last name and just be Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie, not Jolie-Pitt, just Jolie. She hired her own lawyer. She paid for it herself. She went through the whole legal process, which in California requires you to publish a notice in the newspaper for weeks before it gets approved. And in August 2024, the court granted her request. Shiloh Jolie-Pitt was now officially Shiloh Jolie. The message was clear. She was choosing her mother's side. She was distancing herself from her father, and she wasn't hiding it. But Shiloh didn't stop there. In 2025, she started using an even shorter version of her name professionally. As a dancer and choreographer, she's now going by She Jolie. That's it, She Jolie. In May 2025, she choreographed an entire dance piece for a fashion event in Los Angeles. The credits listed her as She Jolie. No mention of Pitt, no mention of her famous parents. Just a short, simple name that let her work and create without carrying the weight of Hollywood royalty on her shoulders. It's a power move. It's her way of saying she's not defined by her parents. She's her own person. And she's done with the drama. Now let's talk about Zahara. She's 20 years old now, the oldest daughter. Angelina adopted her from Ethiopia when Zahara was just a baby. Brad adopted her shortly after. For years, Zahara was Zahara Marley Jolie-Pitt. But in November 2023, something changed. Zahara was at a sorority event at Spelman College in Atlanta, where she's been studying. She introduced herself to the crowd. And when she said her name, she left out Pitt. She called herself Zahara Marley Jolie. Just Jolie, no Pitt. It wasn't a legal name change like Shiloh's, at least not publicly. But it was intentional. Everyone heard it. Everyone noticed. Zahara had made her choice too. Zahara has always been close to her mother. Angelina has said that Zahara is deeply passionate about social causes and helping others. She's studying at one of the top historically black colleges in the country, building her own life, figuring out who she wants to be. And part of that journey meant letting go of her father's name. Whether it's official or just what she calls herself, the point is the same. Zahara doesn't want to be associated with Brad Pitt. She's moving forward, and she's doing it as a Jolie. Then there's Vivienne. She's 17 now, one of the twins. Vivienne is quieter than some of her siblings, more behind the scenes. Her mother has said that Vivienne reminds her of Angelina's own mother, someone who doesn't need to be the center of attention, but loves supporting other creative people. Vivienne got interested in theater, and in 2024, she worked as a production assistant on the Broadway show The Outsiders. Her mother was one of the producers. They worked together. It was a big deal. The show was a hit, and Vivienne was credited in the official playbill. But here's the thing, the playbill didn't list her as Vivienne Jolie-Pitt. It listed her as Vivienne Jolie. Again, no Pitt, just Jolie. Vivienne and Angelina ended up winning a Tony Award for their work on The Outsiders. It was a proud moment for both of them. But once again, the absence of Brad's name was impossible to ignore. 3 kids, 3 different ways of distancing themselves from their father. Shiloh made it legal. Zahara made it public. Vivienne made it professional. All of them sent the same message. They're done with the Pitt name. They're Jolies now. And that choice speaks volumes about where their loyalty lies. So what about the other 3 kids? Let's talk about Maddox first. He's the oldest, 24 years old now. Angelina adopted him from Cambodia when he was just a baby, long before she even met Brad. Maddox has always been close to his mother. He's worked on several of her film projects as a producer and assistant. He's serious, focused, driven. In 2023, he graduated from a university in South Korea with a degree in biochemistry. Now he's training to become a pilot. That's right, a pilot. He's building a whole career for himself, far away from Hollywood. And according to reports, Maddox has been estranged from Brad since the 2016 plane incident. He witnessed what happened. He was there. And whatever he saw that day damaged his relationship with his father beyond repair. Then there's Pax. He's 21 now, and honestly, his story is one of the most heartbreaking. Pax was adopted from Vietnam when he was a toddler. He's always been interested in the arts, working behind the scenes on his mother's films, doing photography, helping with set design. But in 2024, Pax went through absolute hell. In July 2024, he was riding an electric bike in Los Angeles during rush hour. He wasn't wearing a helmet. He crashed into the back of a car that was stopped at a red light. The impact was brutal. His mouth was full of blood. Witnesses called 911. He was rushed to the hospital with a severe head injury. Doctors feared a brain bleed. He ended up in the ICU with what they called complex trauma. He had to go through a long recovery with physical therapy, surgeries, all of it. Angelina was by his side the entire time. His siblings visited constantly. It was terrifying. But here's where it gets worse. That wasn't even his first accident. 2 months before the bike crash, in May 2024, Pax had crashed his Tesla into a parked truck outside a studio in Hollywood. The car was totaled. Thankfully, he wasn't hurt that time. But then came the bike accident. And then, believe it or not, in January 2025, it happened again. Pax was riding his electric bike through the same Los Angeles neighborhood, doing tricks, not holding the handlebars, and he crashed into another parked car. He left a dent in the door. Luckily, no serious injuries this time. But it was the 3rd accident in less than a year. According to sources, Angelina was terrified. She reportedly made Pax sign a contract promising to be more careful. She couldn't go through watching her son almost die again. And through all of this, Brad was nowhere to be seen. Reports say Pax and Brad haven't had a real relationship in years. Finally, there's Knox. He's one of the twins, 17 years old now. Out of all the kids, Knox is the one who keeps the lowest profile. He's rarely in the media, rarely at events. He's just living his life as a normal teenager, or as normal as you can be when your parents are 2 of the most famous people on earth. There have been reports that Brad still sees Knox and Vivienne occasionally, but even those relationships are described as strained. Not close. Not what they used to be. Just occasional contact. That's it. So where does all of this leave Brad Pitt? According to sources close to him, he's heartbroken, absolutely devastated. He's tried to reconnect with his kids. He's reached out. He's made efforts. But the relationships are damaged. Some of them might be beyond repair. Multiple sources have said that Brad processes things quietly and privately. He doesn't talk about it publicly. He doesn't make a scene. But people close to him say he misses his kids desperately. He wishes he could be closer to them, especially around holidays and birthdays. But the reality is, most of them want nothing to do with him. And that has to be one of the most painful things a parent can go through, no matter who you are. Now let's talk about Angelina and where she is in 2025. She just turned 50 in June 2025. And according to people close to her, she's finally at peace. After years of court battles, after years of protecting her kids, after years of being dragged through the media, she's ready for a new chapter. She's been open about the fact that she stayed in Los Angeles all these years because of the divorce. She needed to be close to the courts. She needed to be there for her kids while they were still minors. But now that the twins are about to turn 18, everything changes. Angelina has said she wants to leave the United States. She wants to move abroad. She's considering several locations, including Cambodia, where she has a home and has spent a lot of time over the years. She wants more privacy. She wants peace. And she wants her kids to be able to grow up away from the constant spotlight. Her kids have been incredibly supportive of her. They've been her biggest advocates through everything. They encouraged her to speak up for herself during the divorce. They stood by her when the media tried to tear her down. And now they're building their own lives, pursuing their own passions. Maddox is becoming a pilot. Pax is working in film production. Zahara is studying at Spelman and getting involved in social causes. Shiloh is building a career in dance. Vivienne is exploring theater. Knox is still figuring things out. They're all growing up, finding their paths, and doing it together as a family. Angelina has also been working more again. In 2024, she starred in the film Maria, playing legendary opera singer Maria Callas. It was her first major role in years, and it earned her a Golden Globe nomination. She attended the ceremony in January 2025 with Zahara by her side. She's also directed a new film called Without Blood, which premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. Pax worked on the film as an assistant director, still recovering from his injuries but determined to keep working. Angelina brought him to the red carpet premiere, and you could see the scars on his forehead from the accident. But he was there. He was smiling. He was supporting his mother. That's the kind of family they've become. They show up for each other no matter what. One of the things Angelina has said recently is that her kids are everything to her. She can't imagine her life without them. They're her priority. They're her focus. And they always have been. During the darkest years of the divorce, when she was being attacked in the press, when she was fighting in court, when everything felt hopeless, her kids were the reason she kept going. She wanted them to see her stand up for herself. She wanted them to see her fight for what was right. And now, on the other side of it all, she's proud of the people they've become. But the question everyone's asking is, will these kids ever reconcile with their father? And honestly, it doesn't look good. Brad has said publicly, through sources, that he loves being a father and loves his children. But love isn't always enough to fix what's broken. The kids were there during the worst moments. They saw things, they heard things, they experienced things that shaped how they view their father. And for some of them, maybe most of them, that damage is permanent. Shiloh went to court to legally erase his name from hers. That's not something you do lightly. That's not something you do if there's hope for reconciliation. That's something you do when you're done. The same goes for Zahara and Vivienne. They could have kept using Jolie-Pitt. Nobody was forcing them to change anything. But they chose to drop Pitt. They chose to distance themselves. And that choice has everything you need to know about how they feel. As for Maddox and Pax, the estrangement has been going on for years. There's no sign of it ending anytime soon. And Knox, even though he might still see his dad occasionally, the relationship is described as strained at best. What's so heartbreaking about all of this is that it didn't have to be this way. This was once a family that had everything. Fame, money, love, opportunity. They traveled the world together. They did charity work together. They were a unit. But somewhere along the way, it all fell apart. And the kids are the ones who paid the price. They lost their family. They lost their sense of security. They grew up in the middle of a war between two parents who couldn't figure out how to coexist. And now, as adults or near adults, they're making choices about who they want in their lives and who they don't. And for most of them, Brad Pitt isn't making the cut. This is the reality of life after Brad Pitt for Angelina Jolie's kids in 2025. It's not a Hollywood ending. It's not neat or pretty or easy to digest. It's complicated and painful and real. These kids have been through trauma. They've dealt with public scrutiny their entire lives. They've watched their parents go to war and court for 8 years. They've had to pick sides. And they picked their mother. Whether that's fair or not, whether Brad deserves it or not, that's what happened. And now they're all moving forward, trying to build lives that make sense to them. Lives that bring them peace. Angelina is preparing to leave Los Angeles and start fresh somewhere new. Her kids are growing up and chasing their dreams. Some of them are thriving. Some of them are still healing. But they're doing it together. And that's what matters to them. Family, loyalty, survival. They've been through hell, and they came out the other side as Jolies. Not Jolie-Pitts, just Jolies. And that name means something to them now. It means strength. It means resilience. It means choosing each other when everything else fell apart. So that's the story. That's what life looks like for Angelina Jolie's kids in 2025. It's shocking. It's sad. It's complicated. But it's their truth. And they're living it on their own terms. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole situation.